All right, all right, all right. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? My name is 12 Gauge. If this is your first time to my channel, I hope that you find something in this channel that gets you motivated to keep coming back. We have a lot of different things that I present here. I have different panel guests, and we talk about true crime, we talk about substance abuse, we talk about mental health issues, and we talk about sobriety and things of that nature. So it's a wide variety of things that I talk about. I'm going to bring to the panel typically unique. I'm going to put the link in the description box, and you guys just click on that and let me know when you're ready to come up. Um, I'd like to let y'all know that everything that I talk about here is my opinion. I commentate with actual facts. Most of everything that I say, I back up with visuals. Just like tonight, I have a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I want to bring up typically unique. I'd like to get to know them a little better and let my chat get to know them a little better and see how it goes. Um, last night last night's live was really well received. I thank you guys for all the love and all the kind comments. We will try to do a second part to that with Carla and Gabe. It was a very long live, but it was informative nonetheless. So without further ado, let me bring up typically unique.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello,
You have to
hello
adjust.
guys. How are y'all doing?
Good, thank you.
We're good. Can you hear us
Good.
okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
And be sure just to call me 12 gauge. All right.
Isn't
All
working.
right.
Okay. Nice to
Do
meet
y'all
you.
have do y'all have names that you want to call me to call you, or do you want to go by your name? Or
Yeah, I'm Kim.
And I'm
okay,
Carlos.
Carlos. Nice to meet y'all. Can
Nice
you
to meet
tell us? Can you
Meeting.
tell the chat a little bit about your channel and what you represent on Typically Unique? I found your channel earlier, and I think you're on episode 4. Is that not correct?
We're up to 6 today.
Okay. Okay. Well, let the chat know a little bit about your channel.
Start.
Sure. So
Don't be shy.
yeah, we've dove into a few topics, but always in our heart, we're true crime junkies.
Hmm?
Probably like your community as well. And so we've done some different stuff. We had a very interesting marriage. We had a very interesting situation with one of our children that we talked about for a while, and then we talked a little bit about relationships. We are a married couple of 27 years nearly, and we've gone through some trials and tribulations. We are actively in counseling and working on our marriage, and want to share some of those things that we do, but always in our heart was true crime. We watch everything true crime. Documentaries are our favorite movies. We love to dive into that. And the one thing about us that I think kind of makes us a little bit different and, you know, mortifies Kim is that we see things through a different lens.
Okay.
So we are always looking at, like, she calls me the devil's advocate because I'm always looking at the opposite side of things.
Most things, all
Both,
the time.
yeah. So when it
Okay.
comes to true crime, I think we spend a lot of time talking about how she sees it, what are some of the things that I agree with, how I see things, some of the things that she agrees with. But mostly we are on polar opposites, and that's what we kind of do on our podcast is we talk about both sides of an issue,
Mhm.
try to have a little bit of that dialogue, and then try to engage the community afterwards, which is usually on her side, just to be
Yeah,
fair. But
We say
that's
Team
fine.
Kim.
That's fine.
yeah, Team Kim
That's
mostly.
fine. That's fine. Well, that's awesome. I hope that you guys in chat go check them out. I'm going to have them on panel as long as they can stay tonight because you, I don't know if you've checked out any of my other streams, but I'm pretty long winded. I'm a therapist by trade,
Ooh,
so
Oh, yeah,
um,
nice.
so I specialize in addictions, and I specialize. I've done some family counseling and things of that nature. I've done um, very entry level marital counseling, things of that nature. And there's different areas of that in my library on my channel. So if
nice.
you got to get a chance, just go check it out. And I don't always do true crime, and I don't always do the Idaho 4. I try to skip a day or two, but since it's one of the hot topics of the generation, so to speak,
Exactly.
it's easy to talk about it. Um, so I guess you guys can play the devil's advocate if you like tonight. I do want to tell you that I'm neither I'm I'm neither pro nor against. I'm looking to get most of the information and evidence at the trial. Um, but in my library, you'll find different videos that describe some of the crime. Like you'll find tire analysis. You'll find actual knifings, where it shows a person, not a person, but a jail person being knifed. And, it talked about how long it takes for the knife to, 5 hits per second, things of that nature. I mean, there's a lot of different variatives in my library. So I suggest maybe if you'd like, you go check that out whenever you have free time. You can use any of my videos, you can use any of the stuff. Just be sure to give me a little bit of credit for it, okay?
Absolutely. And
O-
we will be checking it out for sure.
Okay, all right. So tonight, what I'm going to be talking about is Kohberger, the deception of a killer, pro or guilt, the breakdown of a killer. What I'm going to do is break down the characteristics on how a killer is profiled. So I'm going to do the profiling stuff. I'm going to give you some of Kohberger stuff, positive and negative, and I'm going to break down how the traits of a potential killer and let the chat and yourselves give any kind of feedback that you like. I mean, what I tell my chat is everybody's opinion and everybody's thoughts are valid. There's no arguments here. We agree to disagree. And I've added some moderators tonight just in case, we have some people that are in my chat that usually don't show up here. So
Right.
I'd like to keep some kind of order because I don't really enjoy all the drama.
For sure.
So without further ado, I'd like to play a video that kind of demonstrates a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the K-bar knife, the warrant that was, you know, process through Amazon about the K-bar knife, and we're going to have a professor from a college kind of demonstrate his thoughts and feelings on it. And this is on law and crime. So y'all get you some popcorn after that nice meal, I'm sure, and or something, and let's get on with this.
All right.
At any time you have any question or anything, um, just say, hey, hold on a second, and I'll
Okay.
pause the video so you can give some feedback, okay?
Yep.
Sure.
If you've heard something different or anything like that. So
Okay.
so let's get on with the video. Here we
Tech
go.
companies in the Idaho 4 murder case. What could police be looking for and why? Welcome to Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. I'm Anjanette Levy. 28-year-old Brian Kohberger has pleaded not guilty to murdering 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus home last November. Kohberger was a student at Washington State University, not far from the scene of the murders. Police found the sheath of a K-bar knife underneath one of the victims, Maddie Mogan, but to our knowledge, a murder weapon has not been found. Since March of this year, Moscow police have served several search warrants on social media companies, banks, and even the K-bar knife company. But the records are heavily redacted and the warrants are sealed. The latest documents show in July, detectives seized records for Apple, Amazon, PayPal, Venmo, Google, and YouTube. Also, they seized records for Spotify. But we don't know whose accounts they wanted. We do know the Amazon warrant asked for the click history of the account owner. The warrant to Apple sought messages and anything saved to an iCloud account. And the PayPal and Venmo warrants were looking for financial information like transactions, billing info, geolocation data, and any emails or phone numbers that might be connected to the account. Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial in August, which means the trial is postponed indefinitely. Joining me to discuss these latest search warrants in the Idaho 4 case is somebody who is very familiar with evidence because he teaches it at the Beasley School of Law at Temple University. He is Professor Jules Epstein. Welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Tell me, if you would, Jules, what does this tell you that just in the past 2 months or so, this trial was initially scheduled for October. It was initially scheduled to begin today, in fact, with jury selection. And back in July, they are sending out all of these search warrants. We don't know who they're for, whose accounts, but it was for Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, YouTube, PayPal, Venmo. What does this tell you?
Well, this is reading tea leaves, but it suggests a bunch of possible concerns. And number one, this is a death penalty case. And prosecutors have to be and want to be at their most thorough in a death penalty case. And right now, while the evidence is compelling, it's also largely circumstantial. His car, or a car just like it's seen near there. His cell phone indicating travel in that area repeatedly. Of course, there's the DNA on the knife sheath. Whether that's enough for a jury to convict and give the death penalty is anybody's guess. Many jurors or prospective jurors in death penalty cases have said, forget about beyond a reasonable doubt. I will never vote for the death penalty unless it's beyond all doubt. So one explanation is this is the prosecutor trying to cement their case. Another is they're doing just what good prosecutors and police do, keep investigating. And coincidentally, by keeping investigating, that adds or potentially adds to the arsenal of evidence that they have.
One thing that this is what came to mind for me when I saw this. So this is a death penalty case. It was initially scheduled to begin on October 2nd with jury selection because Kohberger had asserted his right to a speedy trial. He later waived that right to a speedy trial because it appeared that both sides, both the prosecution and the defense, were not ready to do this. I mean, this is a case with a voluminous amount
If you want to pause it real quick, I have a point that I wanted to bring up.
No.
In a second. So they started off by talking about the warrants for Spotify and Venmos and things like that, right? That's what they were saying. And then we recently learned, it sounds like they were trying to make a connection to the victims. Do you agree with that? They might have been searching for online connections to Brian Kohberger? Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. When this came out, I thought that the warrant that they were doing were to see if he had any kind of financial ties to any kind of online shopping, any kind of online getting any kind of receipts from online, things of that nature. I don't know if that's what you were asking.
Oh, okay. Because I took it as they're trying to make a connection to him and the victims. And, because we just found out recently when Bill Thompson stood up in court and said there's no connection, I just thought,
Right. The only reason I wanted to play this was mainly for the K-bar knife.
The
the
K-bar. Okay.
warrant for the K-bar knife, and that's what I
Okay.
wanted to show this because I just wanted to um, present that part because I could say stuff and people are like, "Well, where'd you get it? Where did you get that receipt?" Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I want to show a little bit of my notes. I'm not going to show them all because we might not get through all of it, but I'm going to show a little bit of my notes on how. I don't know if y'all can see that. Let me make it a little bigger. Can y'all see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I took this from excerpts of parts of what we know about Mr. Kohberger. And like I said, I'm just using him as an example. I'm not putting him as guilty or innocent. I want to stress that to the chat, to you guys. I'm just presenting the profiling, and
Yep.
he's the easy target because that's what we were going to talk about today. I call this the deception of a killer. As we know, he was bullied, mostly by females. He had weight issues, quiet mostly in his books, anger issues early on, gaslight behaviors, physically aggressive, smash things, punch a wall, friendship ended due to a headlock, heated debates in doctorate classes, contrarian opinions, more disagreements with women. Kohberger was warned about his interactions with women working and frequenting a bar in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. This guy made creepy comments, keep an eye on him. After one or two drinks, gets comfortable. Would get upset with them a little bit. The waitresses. I don't know what you're talking about. You totally have me confused. And I'm gonna go in depth in how I broke these down. Okay. Also, they said intelligent but quiet. I didn't socialize with him because he had made anti-LGBTQ comments, and I am a queer individual. He was quiet and stared a lot, but after the murders, he seemed more willing to talk and hold a conversation. If he visited the Mad Greek, wouldn't there have been same behaviors there at the pub? Notes about the creepy guy. He wouldn't look away if you caught him staring, like he wanted you to notice he was looking at you. He didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't say anything, just stared. Okay, so let's stop right there, okay? So let me go back up to the very top. Let me ask you guys in chat and as well as the panel guests, are you with me on what I'm trying to present here? Does it make sense? Because we are profiling somebody.
Yes.
So these are some of the negative things that were said about him.
Yeah.
So this is how a profiling starts out.
Mm-hmm.
So bullied, the emotional embarrassment. Okay. So this is the feeling behind being bullied. It's an emotional connection. Most of the time you feel embarrassed, loss of control. Would that not be true? Yes or no? Okay.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's lots of recorded incidents.
Okay, can y'all still hear me? Am I loud and clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay. Mostly by females. This would be a genre. This would be a sexuality issue. It would be challenging his sexuality. So if you're being bullied and it's mostly by females, and you know that he has two sisters, right? So imagine growing up in that family with two sisters, and let's say they bullied him also. This is totally speculatory, but we do know that he was bullied by females as he was going through school. So that plays on his sexuality, such as self-esteem, feeling embarrassed, inadequacy, feelings of loss of control. And then he had weight issues. We've heard about the weight issues. This is obviously a self-esteem, self-image issue. So, those people that say that there was no signs, no red flags, he was just a good guy, he was just quiet. I'm digging a little further here. Okay? I'm digging a little further here. He even had self admission in his writings that he had lack of empathy. So if he didn't have any kind of empathy toward people that bullied him, that turned a behavioral change there. Does that make sense? Are y'all still with me?
It makes sense. We have actually, some knowledge about, some of this as well. And, it actually kind of hits home for us a little bit, some of the disconnection and, so it's pretty powerful, what you're putting here and how all these things do come together, because it ultimately, from our experience, it ultimately leads you down a path where you just don't feel other people's feelings. It is only about yourself. It is only
Right.
about, how you're interacting with the world, not how the world's interacting with you. So, this is pretty powerful stuff here.
Okay, we have a question from the chat. I like to take questions from the chat. Heather says, how can he have met a girl since starting school in August and have installed her camera after a break, or got two chicks' numbers at a pool party if he's such an odd duck, or so unliked by women? Okay, let me answer that, Heather. Okay, this is totally just based on the analytical part of it. So, whenever you've been bullied by individuals, this just says mostly, it didn't say all. Okay, so mostly by females. He had weight issues, self esteem, self image, quiet, mostly into his books, coping, isolative. So, the anger issues, the emotion, the coping skills. So, what you were asking is, how can somebody so isolated and creepy and all this get these people's numbers and also install the camera of an individual he befriended? I'm not saying that all women were creepy to him. All women, there might have been some women that were attracted to him. I'm not saying that just because he started off in life like this, that he ended up in life like this. Because I'm gonna if we get time, I'm gonna highlight some positives also. So this is not just a negative portrayal of Mr. Kohberger. I'm gonna give some positives as well. Okay, so um, like I said, if we don't get through it tonight, we'll do a second part and we'll go into the positives and some other things that I have I've highlighted here. So I
12
hope
gauge.
that
Can I add something to that, to the
go
answer to
ahead.
that question?
Go
Um,
ahead.
we've also experienced, because we do understand some of these behaviors. We do know that there is the potential to feel some gratification in slaying the dragon, right? I know that this is a very difficult task for me to do,
Yeah.
to maybe approach women, ask for their number, but there is some self-satisfaction in saying, hey, I can do this. I don't like this, but I can do this. I can accomplish things. I have self-worth. I have I can make myself feel better if I'm able to accomplish this task. What's odd
Mhm.
about it, if they fail, it's like, well, I expect it to fail. So it's a really interesting fact of how to try to conquer small daily tasks in the world when you are um, confronted with some of these things that you've listed here.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture that Mr. Kohberger had such bad coping skills, but when I read these today, this is what jumped out at me. Okay. And as a therapist, I'm programmed to look at certain patterns in life from people. And this is how I would do an assessment on somebody. So when I'm reading these things about him, because these are out there, it's not something I made up, it's not something that I invented. These are out there. You know, they've been out there since the very beginning. And you can say that people have just tried to paint him in a negative light. But like I said, just to show you, here's some positive stuff as well, you know? So we will get to that. Okay. Um, Anger issues. This one popped out a lot. This is emotional and coping skills. This is a way to get retaliation towards the feeling of being slighted or somebody constantly putting you down. We all have that capability, not just Mr. Kohberger. Okay, we all have that capability. It's an emotional connection that many people, this is their first response. If they feel like they're being controlled or that somebody has the capability of hurting them, a lot of times anger is out of control. So you can gain back that feeling of control. Gaslight behaviors, retaliation. So if somebody makes you angry, you can get retaliation back by gaslighting them. Do y'all know what gaslighting is?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Would you guys like to give the chat a very basic definition of what gaslighting is?
To me, I feel for me, it's like someone's saying things to you that aren't true or visibly evident, but making you believe that they are.
hmm So it would be a way to get control back, right? Try to manipulate the
Very
situation.
manipulative.
Yeah, very manipulative or turning it around.
Yeah.
And then I heard that as Mr. Kohberger lost weight, he became physically aggressive towards some of his friends. This would be a retaliatory coping skill that he would be learning. And it's a self empowerment as well. At this point, I believe he started boxing. So he was becoming very physically aggressive because he found a sense of power through being aggressive. So no more the bullying, no more the weight issues. The anger issues were probably under control, but he turned those into aggressive, retaliatory coping skills. Also read he would smash things, punch a wall. This stuck out to me as not wanting to hurt another human being. Do you hear that? When he
Yeah.
would smash things, when you would punch a wall, that means that you have conscience enough at that point in his life that he didn't want to hurt anybody. So it was easier to hurt himself because that's what he learned as far as being bullied, having weight issues, the self esteem stuff, being quiet, introverted. Well, I'm going to hurt myself because this is normal. I'm not wanting to hurt anybody else. Does that make sense, guys?
It does. It does. And sometimes, from what we're familiar with, there would be no physical contact. Anytime there would try to be anything retaliatory, it would be with words, but never getting to a point of any type of confrontation, any physical confrontation. It would just be, like you said, a gaslighting or, things of that nature. But yes.
Words.
Yep.
Yes. So one friendship even ended due to him putting him in a headlock. I don't know if y'all remember reading about that. Is one of his good friends. He ended up walking away from the friendship because Mr. Kohberger put him in a headlock. This was a change of behavior, an escalation of dominance. So whenever you're at one end of the spectrum where you're the victim, As I highlighted in another video of mine, you can develop a trauma bond with people. So you have the victim, the rescuer, and the perpetrator. So in this dynamic, Mr. Kohberger is no longer being the perpetrator or the victim. He's hopping up to be the perpetrator, and he's making other people his victim now at this point. And we'll get to how he becomes the rescuer as well. Does that make sense to you guys?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So, heated debates in doctorate classes. I read also that once he got into the doctorate program, he would have heated debate to show that he was always right. This would be an emotional connection and presentation to the world. Look, at one point in my life, I didn't have this method of control. Now I'm smart. Now I'm skinny. Now I'm not going to let anybody show me up in any way whatsoever. So it's easier to get into debates where you know your stuff and you're not going to let anybody control you. So this is a change of behavior as well, an escalation, an emotional presentation to the world, the contrarian opinion. This is meaning that I'm being very contrite. This is an emotional attachment, another presentation, and another level of control. I'm going to show you that you're not as smart as you think you are. And instead of being physical, I'm going to use verbal skills to show you I can put you in your place without having to lay a hand on you. So, if we're looking at this up to this point, because obviously he's already gone through college at this point and he's going into his doctorate, okay? Does this sound like a killer to you?
It to me, it sounds like, um, you know,
Be
and
honest.
yeah, I have to say, a killer in training. Um,
Okay.
Only because, especially, and you mentioned in your last statement, when you start to insert your intellectual dominance, right? Whatever you have to become more powerful, whether it's through the boxing or, physically grabbing somebody or using your intellectual dominance, um, all of a sudden you have this urge of retaliation. And it could be a very innocent bystander, someone who just happened to be in the area, nothing that maybe had happened previously. But if you are putting uh, having some of those urges to retaliate in some way, I think it's the makings of something that could be way more nefarious in the future. Do you
Okay,
feel that?
and
No,
that's
I see the opposite side.
Yeah.
okay.
This is where we
That's
differ.
fine. That's why I like to present this stuff because everybody's opinion is valid. Okay, even if you're not believing anything I say, anything that I'm kind of putting these puzzle pieces for you, it's okay. We're
No,
adults.
I
We
get
we
that
can
it's
have discussions. Go ahead.
yeah, I get that it's a profile for a reason, that there are people who commit certain crimes that exhibit these types of behaviors. I get that. Where I struggle with, and personally in my life also, is looking at these traits and you don't know what to believe. You don't until something happens and in Brian Kohberger's case that it did happen. He's the guy. We've seen all the evidence. It's gone through court, all of that. Then we'll be able to go back in hindsight and say, see all these XYZ traits. But when you don't know, there are people that have these traits their whole life and may not ever commit any kind of a crime. So it's
Good
very
point.
hard.
Good point right there. Good point. And Heather once again says, in her experience, let me put this up here. In her experience, most teachers, professors, and TAs think they're the smartest in the room. Don't mean they have the capacity for homicide. That's so true. I mean, you made a great point right there, Kim. You know, I'm not trying to paint a picture whether he's the guy or whether he's not the guy right now,
Right.
but I want to show you how easily it is for people to jump one way or the other. That's mostly the reason I'm putting this out there tonight, is
Yeah.
because it's easy to point, okay, well, this, you can go from this to the end result because you know the end result. There was a quadruple homicide. So by looking at this, you can say, there's no way. There's no way. But if you look a little deeper, as you said, there's people out there that have those tendencies. They just never act on them.
Yeah.
But we all have that one specific thing that could happen to us, and this is stirring underneath the surface, and boom, they go and wipe out a whole mall. And
Yeah.
they say, and
Right.
their parents are always saying, well, there's no way it could have happened. He was such a good kid. He was this, that, and the other, and this and that.
Yeah.
So
People say that all the time.
And 12 gauge, this is a debate that Kim and I have. So you're really hitting on something that we've actually talked about a little bit. One of the things that we talk about is somebody who exhibits some of these traits, right? You have to be aware that, and in our case, some of the things that we think about are, and we're not close to it in this regard, but when urge meets opportunity, a person who exhibits some of these things can act in a very bad way. One-on-one, or like you had mentioned, in a mass killing or things like that. It's when that urge meets an opportunity. And there's so many examples of it. I know you said you talked about other cases. One of the ones that we often go back to is the Jeffrey Dahmer case. His very first killing was, he always had this urge, but would never act on it until he saw a hitchhiker. And I had the urge, I had an opportunity because my father was out of town, and that's how he got started. So I'm always aware of understanding these traits of people that we interact with, and
mhm.
making sure that, I don't want to be in a position with them in some way where that urge could lead to an opportunity for them to hurt us in some way.
Exactly. But I'm going to continue on, and I want you to think about this through my eyes right now, okay? Because I know that you've heard all this stuff and you've dissected it and you've put things together and you've found your own theories. I'd like for you to kind of look at this through a therapist's eyes, okay?
Okay.
Because the way I look at things are totally different. There's no emotional attachment whatsoever. There's no emotional attachment. Everything is objective, meaning that black is black and white is white. You can try to convince me of your view, and that's fine. I respect it. But through a clinician's eyes, it's totally different. And I know that I have some clinicians in here, and I have some people that have firsthand knowledge of this stuff. And that's great. I'm happy about that they have that. But I'm looking at this totally different than an emotional attachment, because if you look at this emotionally, you're gonna want to be pro or guilt, if that makes sense whatsoever.
Sure.
So let's go on. Here we have more disagreements with women, grading harder on women, being called out because of it, having to answer to it. Genre. There's the woman again. Another woman issue. Could this potentially have anything to do with sexuality? Could this have anything to do with Mr. Kohberger's sexuality? I know that that's a hard pill for a lot of people to even go there. But think about this. Most individuals that are domestic violence individuals, they don't like women. And when I say that in the regard that I don't want you to think that they don't like women. They do enjoy women, but they view them in a different light than an individual who has had a healthy upbringing with a female individual in their lives. Does that make sense, guys? Chat, does that make sense? You don't have to agree with me, but I'm just trying to show and understand or give you an understanding of why I'm saying what I'm saying. Okay? So here we go. Kohberger was warned about his interactions with women working and frequenting a bar in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. More sexuality? What is viewed as creepy? Because that's the word that they used. Creepy behavior. Do y'all remember this? Have y'all gotten to that point yet where you've read about, his interaction with the waitresses there at the bar? What is viewed as creepy? You tell me. You guys tell me in the chat. What is viewed as creepy? You have a couple of drinks, you're hitting on some waitresses, you're asking them for their phone number, you're asking them what they're doing with their lives. He's a 28-year-old male. What's viewed as creepy? Y'all tell me. Heather, tell me what creepy is. You tell me. I want to know. Because that's the word that they used by his name. He has, after one or two beers, he gets creepy. What does that mean, guys?
Getting in your personal space, physically touching you when you don't want to be touched, following you around.
But is that viewed that way because of the way he looked, or possibly the way he just stares at you? The stare.
It could be that.
Jump out on a limb with me here. What is so creepy? Because those words have been uttered more than one time in describing this individual.
He does have a dark, blank stare.
Okay.
Or he could. I mean, he has dark eyes when you look at some of his photos.
Okay. Christy says just staring at you. So just staring at you can be viewed as creepy in your eyes, right? Let's see what deception says. Y'all have who other view on who might have happened? I think it go back to Ashley Fugel. I don't know what that is, but okay. Twiz says creepy doesn't have to deal with touching all the time. Also, creepy is different from girl to girl. You're very true there. I'm trying to get some insight because this word has followed him for a long time. He started asking where they live and awkward questions like that. Yes, I read that also. I haven't gotten to that point, but yes. So what's creepy about that? You're 28 years old. Carlos, you've been 28 before, right?
Well, I was just thinking,
women.
well, I was thinking,
You're 28 last year. You were 28.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year,
Thank
right?
you for that.
There you go. There you go.
Has somebody ever been kind of weirded out by me? Maybe in a happy state after a couple beers. I would like to think not, but what I do know is I'm very tall. And so I'm 6'6". I think Kohberger is well over 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
so I also know that I have to be very careful. I stand with my feet spread apart, so I look shorter, in public. I try not to stare over people at somebody, and this was many years ago, well before, we got married. But, I certainly wouldn't make extended eye contact if I was, if I was interested in somebody, I would try to, walk over and try to have a conversation. I think anytime I did anything across the room or tried to do, like sexy eyes or something, I think that would lend to creepiness, especially at my size, with a couple beers in me. It'd probably look pretty silly.
So you just sitting there just staring at somebody like this, be like, would that be creepy?
Exactly.
And I think, I don't know, the women in the chat can add to this, but most women who have been out at establishments like probably have used that word, describing some guy that's creepy. Like I would use it, just for any unwanted attempts at trying to get attention or not taking no as an answer or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And putting it in a little perspective, not to go against the women here at all, but
Right.
if I was Brad Pitt looking in that direction after a couple, pops in me, I would probably be described less creepy than if I was Carlos steering across the room after having a couple alcoholic beverages. So I guess it's all perspective too.
Right. I love this comment right here. Andrew, you made me laugh. You made my night. You said vampires who stay up all night and gaze at the stars are creepy.
There you go.
Vampire.
Awesome. Heather says creepy is a feeling a woman gets during an encounter with someone. It can be from a lot of different reasons.
Yes, Heather. Yes.
At WSU, he freaked one girl out so much she ran out of the room. He followed one to her car.
Mm.
Okay. Let's see what Miss Q said. It's someone you find unattractive. To be honest, at least you're being honest.
Yeah.
Because that's we want to know the truth. I mean, why sugarcoat it? We're all adults in here. A woman can feel a creeper easily.
Yeah.
And that word has been everywhere in this case. That's why I'm not trying to be ignorant here, okay? I'm just trying to really get an understanding at different people's perspective of what that word means. Because think about it, being a juror, and you hear that word, because it's going to be uttered there somewhere. He's viewed as a creeper. He's viewed as creepy. Angry. This, that, and the other. They don't validate you as a positive individual with that word. Yes or no? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deception says, "Well, I'm creepy. I love stars. I'm always awake at night." There are way too many single moms to trust their intuition. I've experienced a creeper quite a few times. Few stuck in my mind. Okay, well, let's go on from that. I just wanted to invading your space more than staring. Okay, so if somebody is having a couple drinks, you tell them, "Hey, Brian, you're cool, but I got a boyfriend. Well, he ain't got it like me, whatever." You know what I'm saying? Just creepy is creepy to people. So whatever their view is. But I just want to know if really Brian gets the benefit of the doubt in any scenario. You get what I'm saying? Like, let's say he goes to Hooters next door and they don't find him creepy. Is it because people have ganged up and said, "Hey, that's just a creepy mother," you know? Don't go give Brian more than 2 beers because he'll try to hit on you, or he'll just sit there and stare at you all night. But at Hooters, he does the same thing, and people are like, and he leaves them $100 bill and tip. He's not creepy at all, then, right? Does that make sense? I'm being honest here.
Tip
Y'all
or
know
not,
what
I'm still gonna think
Yeah.
you're creepy.
Well,
Y'all-
you're jumping
y'all
on
know
me
what
like
I-
that.
y'all know what
That
I'm-
one, I don't think I can.
But I did see someone make the comment about Asperger's or something like that somewhere, him being on the spectrum. Are
Yes.
you going to address that part of it too, maybe?
Go ahead if you'd like to do that. I mean, you're on the panel. You got free speech.
I would just say that if you're someone with that condition and people don't know you or understand that condition, because it sounds like a lot of people knew him, his friends, and got super annoyed to the point of not being his friend anymore because of his behavior. But I also know, even people you think are close to you might not understand, especially if it's something undiagnosed.
Right. I mean, if he start talking about criminal justice or psychology at the bar, that's going to seem kind of creepy, right?
Yeah, it's going to seem
When
very weird.
when everybody else is talking about football and what they did last night and this and that and the other, and he bust out with, "Well, you know what? That sounds like a crime and blah 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 and this and that." Bro, we were just talking about the handcuff that my girl used last night or whatever. I'm just trying to keep it clean, but
Yeah, that's a great example. That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
it's kind of creepy, right? Kind of creepy.
Well,
So
and one thing about the Asperger's maybe is a lot of times they really don't pick up on social cues. So if someone's looking back at you and like, "Hey, what are you doing?" and you just continue to stare because you may not be able to pick up on some of the social cues that are out there too. So I guess I kind of understand a little bit if that's part of a diagnosis that he has. Maybe it's just he's unaware. He's unaware of how people around him are reacting to him. He just can't pick up on those clues.
But we don't know if he has any diagnosis like that, right?
of course, we haven't heard of any. Okay.
Yeah.
Deception, I was going with this as well earlier because I kept seeing it pop out. No pun intended. Pop up, as sexuality. What if you don't like girls? I know it said one of the students said he had something about LGBTQ. I really don't believe that though. Well, sometimes people try harder when they want to come across as the alpha.
Yep.
Maybe he was a little confused. Who knows? Wow. Heather says exactly. My brother is smart, but socially he is creepy.
Yeah.
We probably don't know somebody like that.
Too bad Sarge isn't here.
Oh
I think
boy.
there's a guy named Sergeant Friday, and he has his own show.
I know Sarge, yeah.
You know Sarge? Okay.
Not know him, but I've seen him in chat.
Okay, here's another one. It says, would get upset with them a little bit, an emotional loss of control. So think about that a little bit. If you've been bullied, you have anger issues from your childhood, you have unresolved reenactments. A reenactment is anything that continues to occur with you. It's not necessarily PTSD, but it's a reenactment of some kind of trauma. So you're bullied, you see yourself in a different light, and all of a sudden these girls are getting upset with you, telling you to leave them alone. What's the difference in that and somebody making fun of you about your weight? There's very not much difference. You have a loss of control because somebody is pushing you away. You don't have control here. You can't woe them with your knowledge. You can't woe them with your place in the college realm. So emotionally, you're just free falling. And then the manager says, "Hey, can you kind of lay it off a little bit? You're creeping people out one more time." And what does he do? He goes for that emotional control. And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about. You totally have me confused. Grandiosity, lying, self image." He's trying to regain that control because he even called a waitress a bitch, I think, supposedly.
Wow.
So when the manager comes up and confronts him, he saves face and says, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Excuse my language. You totally have me confused. Grandiose, mic drop moment. I'm walking out your place." Does that make sense, guys?
For sure.
Is this supposedly at the Greek restaurant?
No, this is at the beer pub in Pennsylvania before he came to
Oh, okay. Okay.
to Pullman.
Okay.
So there's his grandiosity, lying, self-image. So he's lying to maintain self-control, the grandiose state he has about himself. Okay, another one says intelligent but quiet. Inner fights with emotional attachment or fears. Do y'all get what I mean by that?
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't socialize with him because he had made anti LGBTQ comments and I'm a queer individual. Deflection of his own insecurity, sexuality. Was he fighting his own image? So another individual said they didn't socialize with him because he had those comments and he was, he didn't feel comfortable around them. He was quiet and stared a lot, but after the murders, he seemed more willing to talk and hold a conversation. Could he have found his new project? Not necessarily a connection to it. Does that make sense?
Does to me.
Yeah. If he visited the Mad Greek, wouldn't there have been the same behaviors there at the pub? Notes about the creepy guy. Let me pause on that one, okay? Um Carlos, you and Kim, give me your insight on this. If you haven't really gotten to the Mad Greek yet, that's where Maddie and Xana worked. Um, it was rumored that Brian visited there. There was never any kind of confirmation on that. But what I'm asking right now, if he visited the Mad Greek, if he visited the Grub Truck, if he visited Starbucks, wherever, would there not be the same type of accusations about this man?
You would think.
Well, we dive into a little bit on alternate theories, right? If not Brian, who, right? So we have talked about the Mad Greek, and this is me saying I believe it's Brian, but I know that's not what we're doing here tonight. But it just leads me to a conversation I think we had that if there was an attraction at the Mad Greek, I think what you're kind of asking here was, why don't we hear about similar behavior at the Mad Greek like we did back in Pennsylvania? And my thought was that's where the attraction, maybe an unhealthy attraction, blossomed or started. So when, because motive is very thin here, very, very thin in this case. But you pointing out here that there is a slight change of behavior or undocumented changes or undocumented behavior that he had previously almost lends itself to, could there be some type of long distance, even though it's maybe 10, 20 feet infatuation with somebody, and it could have sparked or spurred from there. We've had some of those conversations. It's a big step to take that and go to what happened at the apartment that night, but it's not insignificant in my eyes. What's your
Okay.
thoughts on that?
Right.
Kim, how about you?
Well, we had said if you're vegan in a small area like
Yes.
that and it's a vegan restaurant, you've probably been there, like number one. And then I don't know. I kind of can see it through the lens of if you're someone who would have some control, being able to try to stop those types of behaviors, if he was someone who could do that, starting over fresh in a new place might be a place to be able to do that. That's what I thought. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I literally thought about that question as I was writing this because to me, I'm very particular about patterns, okay? I'm very particular about patterns. Everybody has them. And I've said that multiple times on different streams of mine. So if somebody had a pattern of being creepy, and Rondi says, the Mad Greek isn't a bar. I get that. But
True.
if you're creepy towards women, you're going to be creepy towards women no matter where you go. So there's been many that theorize that he met his victims at the Mad Greek, two of them, and maybe even saw Kaylee at the Mad Greek. So I'm saying, could this have been a creepy experience for any three of those if he made it known? Or at this point, had he been able to, because just like Ted Bundy, he was very charismatic, he was able to turn it off and on. At this point, and once again, I'm not trying to say yay or nay, but what I'm saying is, could he have had more control over his outlandish behavior, outlandish creepiness, so to speak?
In 12 gauge, let me say this because you mentioned it earlier. Could what made that mask fall, the one that he was given to society to say, I'm a normal person, could that mask fall when he had a couple beers or when he was in, an establishment that sold alcohol? And maybe that's when I no longer have the control and, for lack of a better term, the creepy comes out. But if I'm at a restaurant or if I'm in, being a TA in class, that mask doesn't fall as easily as it does with maybe a couple shots of alcohol or something.
True.
Exactly. I like that. I'm going to bring Sergeant Friday up to the panel for a little bit. That way we can get his perspective on anything we're talking about. Once again, we're not going towards or against. What I'm presenting here is factual. I've read it more than once. People are saying it's hearsay, but how can it be hearsay when it's demonstrated in more than one area, So take it as you will. Okay. But yeah, you're very right on point, Carlos. Maybe he didn't get intoxicated there and he didn't have any kind of behaviors. He didn't drink one or two beers. He didn't show up after drinking one or two beers. You're very, very insightful right there.
Yeah.
Very insightful.
And in 12 gauge, let me say this. We are traveling. We are out of town. We are going to be getting up early in the morning. So I have to kind of pack up here tonight. I appreciate you having us on panel. We would love to do this again. I like the structure of what you're doing here. This is a lot of great homework and you're bringing a lot to the table. If you'd have us again, we'd love to be back on. And thank you so
no
much.
problem. I'm thinking about doing part 2 because I'm probably going to be on here about 10 or 15 more minutes. And I'm going to kind of finish it up probably either tomorrow or maybe Sunday night or something like that.
I can hang out for another 15 minutes, but I'm going to let him go because he's got to drive.
Okay. I understand that. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carlos, for being up here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. This was great.
You guys definitely subscribe to the channel. Browse around, see what you can see. Like I said, if you want to use anything, you're more than welcome, as long as you give a little cred.
Appreciate it.
All right, Kim. You said you knew Sergeant Friday a little bit from the chats.
From other channels. Yep. Me being in the chat.
Okay, Sergeant Friday, have you heard of...
has no idea who I am.
Have you heard of Typically Unique with Kim and Carlos?
I have not.
Well, hi, nice to meet you.
You're the first time. Nice to meet you as well. So what's going on there, Mr. 11+1?
I'm just kind of doing a profiling assessment on... My first one would be Mr. Kohberger. So I'm going to be doing more than Kohberger. I'm going to be breaking down a lot of different people and do not psychological, but profile assessments on different character traits. I'm doing the positive and the negative. Tonight, unfortunately, I've done more negative than the positive. That's coming. Like I said, either tomorrow or Sunday night. So we were talking about somebody mentioned about being on the spectrum or Kohberger possibly being on the spectrum. And then somebody said, too bad Sarge isn't here. And then you popped in. So before I let you speak, go ahead and plug your channel, bro.
with your Ass Hurts News Network. It's on at 9 p.m.
Okay.
every night, and it's a unique take, and generally focuses on a lot of interesting topics, but a lot of shenanigans. And it's also connected to a part of it is a message too, where I make messages addressed to specific people that are topics in true crime and politics. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It's cool. We talk a lot of crap, but then we also get some very serious information in there.
Yes, it's a very good channel. I'm
Yeah.
honored to be associated with Sarge.
Honored. I wouldn't be honored if I were you. I would just like put up with that.
Well, you know what? I got to keep you in line. So this is the only place I've ever done it.
So
Yes.
what did you guys conclude with the Kohberger?
So
Anything?
we're not really in conclusion of anything. We're kind of at the point. I'm kind of narrowing it down. I was pointing out whenever it was spoken that he was creepy, and I was kind of asking the chat to kind of define what that word would mean to them because he's been associated with that word for so long. I'm kind of curious to know what people's perception of creepy is.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, do you have
I,
any? Do you have any feedback for that?
Yeah, there isn't enough data sets to actually make any real summation of the gentleman and his personality and his. We don't have anything in fact. We've seen the
Right.
guy. We've seen him framed in particular poses or expressions, and then we're told what it means. But there is no data stream that we can connect to reality on Mr. Kohberger. So
Right.
I see an average, just everyday guy that has a desire to learn, and that's exactly what he was applying himself to up in Washington. I don't see
Okay.
anything Asperger's, autistic. I don't see an incel. I don't see anybody that looks like they pose a threat. I don't his mannerisms. I see from what we're able to observe. I see a regular guy, and we discussed this before. If the fact is that he had a drug issue, an addiction issue, I pointed out that drug addicts are suicidal, not genocidal. And
Yes.
usually drug addicts that actually commit a crime that involves taking another life, it's in the commission of a purchase of drugs. It's sloppy. It's obvious. It's so my assessment of what I can see, he doesn't fit the accusations.
Okay. Well, like I was telling the chat, and I was telling typically unique Kim and Carlos, I was telling them that I was looking at this through a therapist's eyes, not necessarily with emotion attached at all. Not saying that you have emotional attachment to it, but the other part that I wanted to highlight was whenever after he was labeled creepy by the waitresses at that restaurant after calling one supposedly a bitch. How come we never heard of any type of behaviors like that once he got to the Pullman Moscow area? How come we didn't hear about the creepy guy at the Mad Greek or the creepy guy at Starbucks or the creepy guy at, I don't know, some kind of the
Well,
grub truck or
it's not even that, because none of it is true until it's confirmed. So that you're not hearing anything is oftentimes evidence of itself, but you're not hearing anything. He was a very, obviously he was involved strongly with his family. That's another conundrum for him. He was very close to his father, and for all we know, his mother.
After he got to Washington, they made it seem like he was, a big loner, and his dad had to ask for friends for him and things like that. So I didn't really hear a whole lot about social situations with him.
Yeah,
once he's in Washington.
And I say embarrassing things when I'm around my daughter. There's guys around or something, certainly. And I may even have made a comment like that just to get my daughter going. It's just
they're like, man, your dad's creepy.
We're all like the creepy uncle. No, I'm a guy, and I've embarrassed my daughter.
Right.
And maybe that was we don't know. We don't even know if that really happened. The father didn't tell us that happened, nor did the Bryant. So who knows if it even happened?
I could imagine it happening. I'm a protective mom. I could see myself doing something stupid like that. Like, hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once again, like I'm saying, is I'm not trying to present this as fact. I'm basically just doing a profiling, and I chose him to start off with. I'm going to choose
Mhm.
other people because this is fascinating to me. I
Yeah, it
kind of
is.
I kind of thought this up today on my own, so I wanted
Aren't you
to.
a good boy?
So, do you have another sideshow called "Blow It Out Your Ass"? You have that one yet?
Well, I do have a question for you. I was gonna use this on the show. What's the difference between a refrigerator and a butthole?
No clue.
The refrigerator don't fart when you pull the meat out of it.
Oh God!
Good God.
All right, let me go on to the next one. There.
You started it, bro. Remember who's in here. You started it.
Okay, on this next statement, and we'll probably wrap it up after this one. He wouldn't look away if you caught him staring. This is a statement made when he was noticed around the U of I campus. Um,
He
the
was a
individual
WSU
said,
student,
like he wanted you to notice that he was looking at you. He didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't say anything, just stared.
but he was a WSU student. What were you doing at the University of Idaho?
No clue. But
That's what I
while
mean.
he was there,
Mhm.
supposedly this is his behavior.
Everybody
This
wants their 15 minutes of fame. That's what that sounds like to me.
all right. Well, we'll meet me halfway here, okay?
No,
This
okay.
this insinuates control, intimidation, self-esteem issues. Whenever somebody just stares at you without talking, without smiling, without nodding, anything, more often than not, this is what it's a method to regain control of their own composure. They might feel intimidated in their situation. They might feel their self-esteem is being affected. It
Well, look
doesn't
for them next time
necessarily
he's in
mean
court.
it doesn't necessarily mean it's something
Right.
unhealthy, okay? So he was staring. He was staring.
Well, also look at his behaviors and mannerisms in the courtroom. I've yet to see anything that's even. I mean, you got to take the context of what he's in there for. This guy can't be comfortable, obviously, but where are those mannerisms? If that's the kind of behavior that you exhibit, like you see, I just gave a stupid joke that was rude and disgusting, right? Mannerisms of a person stick with them, and you can never ever be so stoic and behave in a certain way. The odds of you pulling that off while you're sitting in a courtroom hour after hour on camera is just. I'm sorry, it just doesn't seem to fit, and he doesn't seem to act out or even give any of the expressions or mannerisms that he's been labeled. And
Well, I
until
mean,
we see it, it's hard. It's
the
hard for
man
me
is
to.
the man is trying to fight those accusations that society has given him. That's my
Hmm,
point in all this.
I don't know
Is
that he's
if
trying to
this
fight society.
hey, look, society has called him a creeper. They've called him an incel. They've called him,
Right.
bad with social skills. They've called him with this, that, and the other. If you're in a courtroom fighting for your life, the last thing you're going to do is make an offhand joke at your attorney about her ass.
Well, I
Like,
can promise you that if I was in that courtroom under the guise of the evidence that they used to arrest me, okay,
yeah.
there's no way I would be able to maintain my composure like he has. So that suggests to me, and I think this goes for everybody. If you're a hothead, right, and I can be a hothead, that's going to come out through the process of the hearing because
But most of the
when
stuff
you
that's been presented has been in his favor. Why would he act out?
no, but you're still you're stuck in it. Like I was falsely accused, and a restraining order or order of protection was gotten, and then the person lied to get me violated, and I had to go to court. I was so furious. The person should have been charged with a crime for doing what they did. They used the law as a hammer against me, and in the end, I was completely exonerated, and everything was discharged, and all the orders were removed. Right, but I'm telling you, throughout that process. I was hard pressed to sit still while I got a lawyer standing up that I hired to make statements to the court to the point where I sat him down and did it myself
Right.
and ended up getting the case cleared. But I'm just saying to you, you're who you are and what you are isn't 24/7 controllable. Even if you're conscious of it, it's just not likely that somebody can behave the way he's behaving and be opposite of that.
Well, to be fair as well, we only see him for what, an hour and a half? Who knows how he acts back in the back in the
Right.
cells. We don't know whether he's crude, whether
No,
he's
but that's
making.
why I'm saying you've got to take the info you got. The only data points we have are what we have. And so if you're going to summarize the guy, don't do this woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe, I don't know. We don't know what goes on in the cell, so we shouldn't even consider that.
Well, he's
We
not
know what
having
goes
to
on in the court.
he's not having to socially interact with anybody at court either. He just has to sit there. He's
His
good at
lawyer.
staring straight ahead.
He has to interact with his lawyer. He does look over to his lawyer. He does make nods, and he does interact to some extent with the lawyers when he needs to. Otherwise,
Yeah.
he sits patiently waiting for her to do her job.
Yep.
And when you're being accused of any crime, whether it be what I explained about myself, this situation, 4 homicides, your heart's got to be going 1,000 beats a minute when you're, it probably won't stop beating after you die. You're so stressed out over this situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to sit there quietly either.
See?
Well, whether he's innocent or whether he's guilty, it's yet to be seen. And these profiles, I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever done one or one
I'm
that's
glad
ever.
you did, though. I'm glad you do, and you try, and you go through the process of trying to put things together.
Yes, I mean, the puzzle pieces are right there in front of you. Even if it's somebody saying it, more than one person saying it, you have to listen to it, whether it's true or not. I mean, that's your prerogative. Like you always say, just because you think that it's your opinion, your opinion doesn't always have to be heard or stated. Understand that. But when it's scientific data, whenever you're dealing with scientific instruments such as assessments and profiling tools, those things don't lie. I mean, there is no connection
They
one
don't
way or
lie,
the
but
other.
they're never exactly accurate because this case is. I'm glad you said what you said because when you go back in the beginning, it was a potential crime of passion. Then it turned into a crime against the house.
Right.
I don't even understand that. Last time I punched a house, I broke a knuckle. What do
Right.
you mean a crime against the house? So what I'm saying is that stuff does have its place, but it's malleable data because you need more and more data to come to a conclusive data set, and we just don't
Of
have it,
course.
right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, once I finish Kohberger, I'm going to go on to the next person,
Don't
and
ever
I'll
do
probably
me.
and I'll probably have 3 viewers in here because it's not about Idaho, but that's fine with me. It is what it is. But guys, I appreciate everybody being in chat, everybody being on the panel. Uh, Typically unique, you, Kim, and Carlos and Sergeant Friday. I appreciate y'all being up here and giving me your insight, giving me a different perspective to think on and to look at. I enjoy doing this, and if it wasn't for the chat, there'd be no reason to even do this. You guys, your opinion matters. It's respected, and it is your American right to speak your truth. Whether I agree with it, where somebody else agrees with it, your truth is your truth. As long as it doesn't get to the
What if
point
I
of
don't agree with it though?
what if
Don't
it
I
gets
get
to the
final?
point of
Don't I get final
lunacy?
say?
Well,
Thank you very much.
do you
You're
have that
awesome,
kind
bro,
of
Gabe.
authority?
You are awesome, brother.
But you guys, I'm gonna try to finish this up, and like I said earlier, I do have some positive points about Mr. Kohberger. It's not all negative. I am gonna incorporate the definitions of how certain areas define certain um, characteristics about psychopaths, sociopaths, antisocial behaviors, and narcissists, as we've discussed before in the past. I am going to break this down a little more. I'm not sure if it's going to happen tomorrow night or Sunday night or even maybe next week. It depends. I will drop a community post on it. I hope that each and every one of you come back for the conclusion of it because it is some good, insightful information, if nothing more than something different than what is presented out there in them YouTube streets. I don't like arguments and drama in here. I try to keep it clean and try to keep it, focus based. So you guys please come back and hit that like button on your way out. Give me the subscription if you haven't subscribed. Be sure to go check out Typically Unique. They have some interesting insight, interesting topics, and they're very easy to listen to. No drama there. I haven't seen, so give them a shot. And Sergeant Friday, as he was saying, he does have. I can't even say it with a straight face. Your Ass Hurt News Network. He does have some insightful information, and he does have a softer side. There's a couple of videos that he's put out that shows his heart. He does have a lot of heart, and don't mistake his passion for anger. Mistake it for nothing more than just passion. We
I
all
appreciate
should
that
have
kind words,
that kind
Roger.
of passion. So, you guys just get out there and check out the YouTube treats. Be sure you try to come back and say hello from time to time.
Well, thanks for having me on. I came up late, but I remembered you said you were going to have people up here tonight that you were going to talk with, and that's why I jumped in. And I'm sorry it was at the end, but it was nice meeting you. Typically, I just subscribe to your channel. I'll be checking you out.
Nice meeting
And
you. I'm going to head over to yours as well.
everyone be awesome.
All right, Sergeant Friday.
Thanks,
Go have a
chat.
great
Thanks,
show.
mods.
All right. You have a good
Thank you
night.
so much for the invitation.
No problem. I hope to see y'all back for the second part.
Yep. See you soon.
Tell Carlos I said hi and thank you for
I
his
will.
insight. And y'all have a safe trip, okay?
We will. Have a good night.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. The rest of you in chat, thank you so much for all your help. The mods, this is my first time to have mods. I have 4 of them. I think 3 of them are still in here. Y'all did a wonderful job, as I can tell. I haven't had mods because usually we don't need them in the chat because it's pretty chill. Is that not true? So I'm going to get out of here. Like I said, if you haven't been here before, hopefully you heard something that keeps you coming back. And if you're a returning person, thank you so much for being here. And usually I end it with the maestro cueing the music.